All right, let's go ahead and get started on this. So right now we have all of our passing tests, and we need to go ahead and start with a test for our playlist model since we're going to be creating that. So in my models, we'll go ahead and make a playlist song, playlist spec.rb. And I guess I'll just say, I know that y'all, actually before I get into this, can y'all give me a yes if you're able to get through just setting up the many-to-many relationship? If you're able to get through setting up the many-to-many relationship. Okay. Andy? Oh, never mind.
Sorry, I clicked the wrong button. I meant
You're
yes.
good. All right, cool. If you have questions while we go through this, Mike, are you on?
Yes.
Cool. I'm going to say if the students have questions while going through this, ask them in the chat, and Mike will be available for answering questions. And I'll kind of go through, like, do like a sweep over at the end to make sure that they were all answered. All right. And this is getting recorded right now, so it's getting done locally, so hopefully it gets put up tonight then. All right, so I'm going to create this playlist spec. And in here, I'm going to go ahead and we'll require Rails helper. And just like all the other tests, we're going to do rspec.describe. This time we're describing playlist, the model playlist. We can go ahead and throw on this like type feature, or sorry, type model, if we want to be a little bit more explicit for ourselves. And we're going to go ahead and describe our relationships. So for a playlist, looking at our schema, and let me actually just get rid of these for right now. Remove table. Okay. Remove table. Okay. So this is what our schema looks like right now, or what we want it to look like. But for our playlists, we want it to have many playlist songs to be able to get eventually connected to songs. And I'll have to make that connection here later, saying that playlists have many songs through playlist songs. But we'll start with that. It should have many playlist songs. And this is a shoulda matcher. Oops. It should have many playlist songs. Cool. And then let's go ahead. Let's run this. Let's see what we have here. I don't have playlist yet, so it's probably going to have some issue with that not being set up. Okay, first thing we're getting is this uninitialized constant playlist. So we'll go ahead and we'll create, that tells me I need to create a model for this. So in my model, so models, we'll go ahead and make a playlist.rb here and have class playlist inheriting from application record. Run that again. Okay, we're getting this big error, but really I just need to see this PG undefined table to tell me that playlist does not exist. So when we look at these many-to-many relationships, these two are separate resources. I don't need to put a foreign key on either of them. They're just like separate resources living on their own, but to be able to connect them to each other, that's where I need that foreign key on this playlist songs table. So I'm just going to create a playlist table. So Rails G migration, create playlists, and our playlist will say has a name, and that's stored as a string. And once this runs, I'm going to open up that migration, go ahead and add timestamps. Let's go ahead and migrate it, Rails DB :migrate. And let's take a look at our schema just to make sure it's all set up in there. And it looks like we have that separate resource of playlists. Cool. Let's run our tests. And we have this expected playlist to have a has many association called playlist songs. no association called playlist songs. So I'm going to go ahead and just put that in the model. That's where that association is going to live. So we have in our model for playlists, we want this to say has many playlist songs. And let's keep that there. Let's try this now. Cool. Expected playlist to have a has many association called playlist songs, similar error to before, but this time it's saying playlist song does not exist. So this, I'm going to go ahead and create, I know I want to create this table. Before doing that, I'm going to create my model test for playlist song just to make sure I'm creating that correctly. So I'm going to jump back over here. I think for right now, while I get this playlist song set up, actually, I'll just add this test right now. I was thinking about just skipping that playlist spec for now, but we'll see what happens when I run all of my tests in a second. So we'll go ahead and create a playlist song spec.rb. And I'm going to copy what I have for my playlist spec just so I have a little template to start with and paste that over here in my playlist song spec. And I'll say this is describe playlist song type model. And if we think about playlist song belongs to songs and also belongs to playlists. Since it belongs to just one of them, it's going to be singular. So we're going to say here, it should belong to playlist, and it should also belong to song. No way to do this on the same line. We have to duplicate that, or no way that I know of to do it on the same line. I hear a lot of students ask that because they want their code to be nice and easy to read. So that looks good. Let's go ahead and run this now. Uninitialized constant playlist song. So that makes sense. We don't have a model called playlist song. And that kind of goes back to, I think, Brian, you had that question of, do we need to have, is this like a model that we need now? And yeah, since we have it in the database stored as like a resource, it needs to have a model here, playlist song.rb. And reason being is because now we need it to inherit from application record. All right, let's go ahead and see what we have now. Okay, we get that Postgres undefined table. So we need to go ahead and create this table for playlist songs. And so we'll start with Rails G migration, create playlist songs. And it's going to reference song, and it's also going to reference playlist. So we need to say song references. Again, it's important that we keep the singular song because it's going to create a foreign key of song underscore ID instead of songs underscore ID. Your active record is immediately going to look for something called singular underscore ID. So that's why we're naming it song right here. Same thing for artist, or sorry, not artist, playlist references. Cool. And I like adding timestamps on my joins table just because I can then think, or like in the case of this, it's like, okay, when did I add that song to the playlist? It has those timestamps. And so that might be something that maybe if I keep developing this app, then that I want to utilize that. So I'm going to go ahead in here and put timestamps in here. And we'll go ahead and run our Rails DB migrate. And I'm going to check out my schema, make sure that everything looks the way that I'm expecting it to. So I have playlists from before, and I have playlist songs. And I look here and I see playlist underscore ID, good, and song underscore ID. And if I look down here, I can see that those are my foreign keys. So that all looks good. And I have those timestamps in there. Cool. Let's go ahead and run these tests. Okay, expected playlist song to have a belongs to association called playlist. no association called playlist. And then I have the same type of failure, but with no association called song. I'm just going to copy this so I remember the syntax. Belongs to playlist and belongs to song. So in my playlist songs, we'll have here belongs to playlist and also belongs to song. And then run these. Cool. All of that is passing. The thing that we haven't really checked yet is that we have a relationship from, that we have this relationship from playlists to songs. We've checked that playlists have many playlist songs. We've checked that playlist songs belong to songs and belong to playlists, but we haven't checked that playlists have many songs through playlist songs, and likewise the other way too. Songs have many playlists through playlist songs. So we're going to go ahead and add that to our tests. And so in my test for playlist spec, I'm going to go ahead and put in here, it should have many, playlist has many songs through playlist songs. And let's go ahead and run that. And we don't actually have that set up in our model. We have our foreign key set up for that, but we don't have that that association set up in our model. So we need to create that has many. So in our playlist model, we'll go ahead and say playlist has many songs through playlist songs, and go ahead and run this. And that's all good. And then the last piece that we need to check, we have this playlist have many songs through playlist songs. We're going to go ahead and check that songs have many playlist songs and that songs have many playlists through playlist songs. Again, we have all of those foreign keys set up, so that should all be good to go. We just have to make those associations at the model level. And I'll go ahead and put that in the song spec. So in our song spec, within our relationships, I'm going to go ahead and say here, it should, oops, I'm actually going to take these guys here, similar. Song spec. There you go. So song should have many playlist songs, but song should have many playlists through playlist songs. Okay, and we need to go ahead and set that up at the model level. So expect song to have a has many association called playlist songs. And then same thing down here, we expected it to have a has many called playlists through playlist songs. So we'll have to go ahead and put that in our song model. And up here we'll say has many playlist songs. This needs to come first, so it knows it has many playlist songs first. And then we can say has many playlists through playlist songs. Great. All right, so that is all set up. Once again, like you have to get it set up at your database level, but in order to have those active record associations to be able to call on .song or .songs off of a playlist, that's why we had to put these relationships here, so that we have those relationships that we can call on as easy methods to see those relationships. I'm going to take a look at the chat right now to see if there's anything that needs to be answered still. Okay, and then, so it looks like Mike's taking care of this. I'll go ahead and open it up. Is there any questions by like a hand raise that y'all have on setting up this many-to-many? Okay, all right. Oh, there you go, Tony.
So I'm guessing that the reason why we set up this joins table is for like future use cases. Like in this case, like I could almost see just using a collection inside a field, right? Because you're not going to have like a cajillion records.
You're saying when you say a collection inside a field, do you mean like keep a few things within one attribute? So
Yeah,
in,
like create these associations just through a collection.
I think I'm having trouble understanding what you're asking, Tony. Can you
Okay.
see if you can
Yeah, let me
reword
think
that?
about the yeah, let me think about it for a second. Let me
Okay.
gather the question and then I'll
Okay.
ask it.
All right, thanks. Okay. Let's, Tony, if you think of that, go ahead and just write it in the chat and we can get to it once we're done this next part, okay? Thanks. All right, so next thing that y'all had was getting to the playlists index page. So kind of utilizing, sorry, I'm stuck on this chat still. Brian, where do we define playlists? I see we have a class named playlist, but not playlists. Where did you define playlists?
Is it when you refer to has many?
Uh-huh. In my model.
I think on the model it's singular, but I think on the test,
Yeah, I'm just confused on the has many, I guess. Like where it's picking up that symbol songs. I see like playlist and song is referring to the class that we made in our model, but the plural version, like where do we actually define that, make that?
This right here, this plural version.
Correct.
So this is you creating a method that you're able to call on a playlist object now. So now the method that you can call on a playlist object is songs, since playlist has many songs.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so this next thing that y'all had was the playlist index. What I'm gonna do for this was a long test that it had you write out. I'm gonna copy this and just put it into my text editor so we can all look at it right now. And for features, I'll go ahead and make a new folder for playlists. And in here, I'm just gonna say, what is this? I'm just gonna call this index, or user can see all playlists ec.rb. And I'll go ahead and paste this in here. It's a lot. So the playlist index page should display all playlists. Kind of going through there, this is meant to show you different ways how to create items in your table for your many-to-many relationship. So you have 3 playlists that you created. You also had 3 artists that were created. Again, these are like standalone resources. They can live on their own. They don't need to be connected to anything. Songs need to be connected off of artists, or in this case. So this is going through different ways that they can be created. In this one, it's saying rock.songs.create. So this is automatically creating a song and associating it with this playlist. But if you're going to do it this way, a song still needs to know what artist it belongs to, so it was hard-coded over here. These are a lot of ways. What I'm going to do for this, and I think that this is something that like a lot of students get really stuck on. I'm going to comment this out for right now, and I want to create each of these resources kind of separately for the most part. The only thing that we can't really make separate is the songs. Songs need to be created off of artists for sure. They need to have an artist to be created. So what I'm going to do is create songs the way that we have in the past. So Talking Heads .songs.create. I'm going to grab this over here. And then Talking Heads.songs.create. We're going to grab this information. Oops, I don't need that though. This one. And then for Journey, we're going to go ahead and do journey.songs.create this one here. Okay, so we have those 3 songs. It looks like we have this other song down here. I'm just trying to replicate what we have because this is like kind of a little confusing. Like I said, I'm just going to keep it commented out so you can see different ways to make these associations in your database. But this next one, I'll keep this one. So zachbrown.songs.create. Cool. What's this one? And so then over here, it's taking these songs and it's putting them into playlists. So the chicken song goes on the country playlist. It also goes on the jams playlist. And place is also on the jams playlist. So what we don't have, or I guess we have these 3 playlists. What I would do for adding these songs to playlists is I would keep these into, and put these in variables still. And then, sure, cool. And then I would create the joins table separately. I feel like this makes a lot more sense to me other than like shoveling things in. This stuff works and it creates the association for you with Active Record magic. But I think it makes more sense to actually just come in here and say playlist song dot create and say like this song for this one, we want to put chicken on the country playlist. So we can say like song chicken playlist country. And then going through the rest of these, we also want the song chicken on the jams playlist, and we want the song place on the jams playlist as well. Going up here, we have some other songs that we're putting onto playlists. So this rock playlist, put place on that playlist. So we can have here playlist song. So the song place is going on the rock playlist. The song Heaven is also going on the rock playlist. And the song Don't Stop is also going on the rock playlist. I honestly think everything below where my cursor is a little bit confusing. So again, just what I did here, creating these separate resources, so playlists, created the songs off of their artists, and then obviously had to have artists in order to create those songs. And then I'm just taking these songs and creating playlist songs with the playlists.
Meg, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I thought I had a handle on why we use the bang operator. But what I'm looking at right now isn't jiving with what I thought. Would you kind of touch on that again?
So the bang operator is helpful in your testing. What it's going to do is if for some reason, let's say up here, if for some reason I wasn't able to create this playlist, maybe I like forgot to pass it a name or something like that in my test, and I'm saying playlist, you need to have a name. If I had that validation in there, the bang is going to throw an error here instead of throwing an error down here at your expectations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, good question. Okay, cool. So we'll go ahead and actually I want to leave this prime here and just play around with this really quick in Pry session. Okay, and if we look at, let's look at the rock playlist, for example. So if we say rock.songs, we get all of those songs back. If we said like rock.playlist songs, which I don't really see you doing this too much, but you can actually see those playlist song objects. The reason why we have that joins table there is so that we're able to call songs off of that. If we were to grab, let's say, chicken is on multiple playlists. So if we said chicken.playlists, then we have those playlists. Okay, so it goes both ways. I don't want to run out of battery. I'm going to go grab my charger really quick, and then we'll kind of run through this test quickly. I'll be right back. Feel free to talk to each other.
Maybe one of you guys can answer this. So when we did this playlist song create, we're not actually creating songs there because we set up those relationships. That's just passing in those foreign keys and the relationship keys, right?
Yeah, so what's happening is that you're not creating a playlist, you're not creating a song, you're creating a playlist song that points to one of each.
And that happens because when we set up those has many relationships and all that, it's the keys that are getting passed in for those songs that already exist. Okay.
And like you don't like in if you look at next screen on line 23, you see that we're just setting in the songs. You can also set the IDs manually, but it's usually easier to work with just the objects.
Cool.
You hear me all right? Cool. I dropped this earbud as soon as I took it off into my mason jar as soon as I left, so it's a little worried it wasn't going to work. All right. So what this is doing right here, we're visiting that /playlist, so we need to go ahead and create that route. And don't worry too much about these withins. We're going to go over this in a testing best practices lesson, but what this is pretty much doing is targeting a specific ID. And so it's saying like within this certain playlist with that ID, it's like making a dynamic ID for that specific playlist. These songs should be present. So within the rock playlist section on the page, we should have these 3 songs. And within the countries playlist part of the page, we should have this song. And within the jams playlist, we should have these 2 songs. Country, cool. So what I'm going to do for sake of time is I'm going to go over here and grab from our lesson plan what the view would look like for this, just to kind of walk through this. We'll need that eventually. But to get started, the first thing that we're getting an issue on will be this routing. So we don't have this /playlists. So we'll go ahead and go to our routes, and we'll put in here a get for /playlists. And it's going to go to playlists index. So we'll go ahead and create that action in our playlists controller, which we need to actually create our controller, playlists controller.rb. We'll have our class playlists controller inheriting from application controller. And in here, I'll have that def index method. This index is going to have to connect to a view. So in my views, we'll go ahead and create a folder for playlists. And within that folder for playlists, we'll make an index.html.urb file. So now we have that all connected there. And just to make sure that it is all set up, I'm going to run my test again. Okay, and so this is what I was expecting. We have our model view controller all set up. We just don't have anything in our view yet. So it's saying unable to find the CSS of playlist 7. 7 is the ID of the rock playlist. So what y'all had in your lesson plan was something that looked like this. And so we're assuming that from our index action, we get @playlist sent over to us. And we want to iterate through all of our playlists that each do. And we have this playlist object. So what we did here for this section is we made a dynamic ID that's going to change for each section of the page for every different playlist that gets printed out. So for the first playlist, let's say it has an ID of 1, it's going to be wrapped in an ID called playlist 1. For a second playlist, all of our playlist info for that second playlist will be wrapped in an ID of playlist 2. And again, we'll talk more about this on Monday, I believe, at our testing best practices lesson. So if this isn't quite sticking right now, don't worry so much about that. You can kind of put that on the back burner. But as we iterate through playlists, we're going to print out the playlist's name. And then we also, so we have an iteration within an iteration here. We're going to iterate through that playlist's songs. And then we'll go ahead and print out for each song, we'll print out each song's title. This needs to get defined in our controller action. And since it's just all of our playlists, we can just say at playlists is equal to playlist.all. And then let's go ahead and run this. And that's all passing. So this is a lot, this like last part, I think mainly because of this stuff being a little bit new. I know some of you all played around with it, but what questions, we'll kind of go a few more minutes. What questions can I answer for you all right now, just by raise of hand? Tyler?
I just had a question on that view.
Yeah.
In Mod 1, we kind of learned like we should try to avoid nested iteration if possible. How can we break that out in a view? Like, where could we put that logic for iterating through the playlists so that we could just call on that in this view?
Why would you try to iterate as less as possible? Just because of optimizing?
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way around not iterating twice on this one.
Okay.
Yeah, because you need each playlist and you need each of them to print out each of their songs.
Okay.
Yeah. Brian?
Real quick on our playlist songs model.
Yep.
Yeah. Is there anything stopping us right now from when we create a playlist song object from having just a song and not a playlist, or vice versa?
Yeah, let's try it. So on the playlist song, if we go into this right here, let's go ahead and say, so we have that bang on there. Let's only give it a song. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Cool. And then let's go ahead and run this and see if that bang comes into effect. There you go. Validation failed. So that belongs to acts as a validation.
So when we use belongs to, it's a required.
Mm-hmm. You can do an optional belongs to. You can look into those optional relationships, but if it's just a straight up belongs to, then it is a required field.
And if it's a required field, will it do the checking to make sure it's a valid, like it's pointing to a valid song or object or something? We can't just throw like garbage in there.
Interesting. Let's try it. So if we said like playlist and like gave it that number, some garbage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Can't find it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions?
Did that happen because you passed in an integer? It says it was passed in as an integer. What if you pass in a word?
A word. Oh, I see. Or if we said like playlist ID, I think that's what playlist ID is that. Yeah, it can't find it, it looks like. That should work because it's just saves it as an ID.
Playlist must exist.
Yeah. It doesn't look like that's a playlist that exists. Cool. All right, y'all. Mike is up next with his lesson. If there were questions in the chat that you were not able to get answered, I'm going to urge y'all to put that in the parking lot in the Code Help channel. Mike made a link for Code Help, and we'll go ahead and answer those there if they weren't able to get answered in this class. And after Mike's lesson, we'll push out a CFU to you all to get done by the end of the day today. And it's going to incorporate both this lesson and Mike's lesson, some questions for both of those. So we'll kind of wrap it up in that CFU after Mike's class. Any questions on the rest of the day? All right, Mike has a different link, so I'm going to go ahead and end this. And let's say 11:08. Is that all right with you, Mike?
Let's make it nice and round. 11:10.
Okay, 11:10. Be back in Mike's new link. It's in the calendar.